So I, perhaps very much like yourself, used to think weight loss was about the extremes. Never eating carbohydrates, even if they were from clean, healthy sources. Living in the gym, doing the strength training, and then doing, for some reason I thought 200 calories worth of cardio was the magic number. So I was doing my 200 calories of cardio right after my weightlifting, even though I was absolutely knackered. Driving my calories, I remember doing this in my university years, driving my calories so low, 1600 calories, which is crazy for me now to consider. I was so fatigued, so tired. The binges and the relapses were so close, within touching distance all the time because I was ravenous. And one day I was so shattered that I came back from a university lecture. My university, I was living about 3 minutes away from my university at the time. Came back, lied on the sofa for like an hour with the self-talk of, I hate this, I can't stand my diet, and you get really negative and resentful, I hate my life, all this dramatic stuff. But I was starving, I was absolutely starving. And guess what? Surprise, surprise, those extreme methods, that extreme mindset, it got me results in moments, but none of it ever lasted. Big shocker, I know. And of course, that's when I have my big aha moment, the big epiphany, which is, oh, the easiest way to lose weight, it's not actually about working harder, punish, push. No, rather it's about finding something I can actually sustain. And I think this is my beef, my contention with what a lot of dieters are trying, what a lot of dieters do wrong, me included back in the day, which is the crash diet approach, which is driving the calories really low, or maybe trying to sacrifice a whole macronutrient like carbohydrates versus fat, and therefore maybe compromising having a balanced, nourishing, healthy diet beyond the number on the scale. Maybe doing some weird fasting windows, the 5-2 diet, something where the calorie intake fluctuates so drastically over the week. Maybe something like a raw vegan diet, just going to the extremes, even by extension some of the weight loss drugs we're seeing popularized nowadays. Clearly, these things can work in moments, again, by driving your calories really low, and you get those crazy instant wins. But in my observation and experience, the moment that real life happens, or frankly, the moment that you have to do these things for more than 2 weeks, that's when they collapse. And so for me personally, this was a huge realization. Hey, I need a diet and an exercise strategy by extension that is actually relatively bulletproof, right? It can work maybe not perfectly, but well enough through the life happens moments. And it's actually satisfying, enjoyable enough, moderate enough, let's say, not extreme, to where, no, I can actually do this beyond bloody 2 weeks, frankly. And let me be crystal clear on this. This is important, actually. Before we get into my particular plant-based philosophy, the approach that's changed my life, the tweaks that I've made to greater plant-based eating, I have to say, there's many ways to peel an orange. There's a lot of different ways to successfully lose weight and keep it off. I'm not saying they're all equally as effective, but that has to be stated. When you understand the law of calories, you realize, wow, it really is just preference. I'm not saying they're all equally as healthy and sustainable, but therefore, because it's about the calories, there's lots of different ways that you can do this. But whole foods plant-based diet, and when I heard the case being made to me online back in 2015, what really clicked with me is, wow, the low caloric density of many foods under the plant-based umbrella, coupled with their very high fiber content, adding to that satiation, that self-limiting effect. For me, it was the first time. And yes, I was doing silly ways to lose weight in the past, so it's not really a fair comparison. I have to be transparent about that. But for me, it was the first time that I'd eat a meal that I knew was calorically appropriate for me and go, whoa, this doesn't feel like dieting anymore. This is actually satisfying. I'm not hungry 30 minutes later, even 1 hour later, even 2 hours later. It carries me through to the next meal. My energy is good because I'm still eating carbohydrates from healthy whole plant sources. This is good. I'm getting my protein. I wasn't scared about getting enough protein. That's a very easy fix on a plant-based diet. I'm having my healthy fats in a controlled amount because they are calorific, but I'm still having my healthy fats. It's balanced. Wow, this feels incredible. And it was the first time, hand on heart, it was the first time in my dieting life, let's say, those 3 or 4 years, that I was looking at my nutrition and thinking, you know what? I could eat like this in 6 months' time, in 1 year's time, in 2 years' time. And that was when the seed was sown, and that's when it started to really stick like glue for me. But what I want to stress here is the thing that changed my life is not just a whole foods plant-based diet, but it's rather plant-based without the fads, the extremes, or some of the like sub or niche diet trends under the greater plant-based umbrella, something like the 50-50 plate, for instance. None of those things clicked and resonated with me. And so for me, the easiest and most sustainable method I've found to lose weight and actually keep it off is a whole foods plant-based diet with the tweaks that I'm going to share with you that I've learned over the last 10 years here. The first credo, small calorie deficit combined with big satisfying plates. That combination, I kind of hinted at it 2 minutes ago, is beautiful because you're never starving. And look, life in a calorie deficit is never going to be easy, but when you make sure it's just a small, not aggressive calorie deficit, a la maybe 200, 300, 350 calories, other coaches can't believe when I put my clients on such a small deficit, incidentally. They're like, what? Only that small? And I'm like, yeah, because adherence goes through the roof, even though in the short term the results are marginally slower. But you have the smaller calorie deficit and you combine it with big satisfying plates. How do we do this? Volume eating principles, greater understanding of caloric density. Don't get overwhelmed by this. You can learn all of this as you go in time, but simply having this mantra in your mind of, okay, I need that small calorie deficit. That doesn't mean tracking your calories, but we'll talk about that in just a second. But I need that small calorie deficit. Don't want this to be too extreme that I'm really hungry. And then bingo, if I can combine that with meals that are actually quite big, quite generous in portion size, I can eat a lot for that calorie deficit. Wow. Brilliant, adherence goes through the roof. Principle 2, I also hinted at this a couple of minutes ago, we balance all 3 macronutrients. You've seen, if you follow me on Instagram, my macro plates, where we have our carbohydrate source, of course, for the energy. We have our protein for muscle and tissue growth and repair. We have our healthy fats for hormones, blood, heart health, a little bit of satiety. I mean, actually, incidentally, all 3 macronutrients are satiating in their own right, but fat I find particularly so. And just having these big balanced meals. And the reason why this works and you still lose weight is, again, fundamental principle that rules everything, supersedes everything else, is it's a calorie deficit first. And this is why I don't need to do the 50-50 plate. This is why I don't need necessarily to do the starch solution, even though I love some of those principles. I don't need to do nutritarian. I don't need to cut out all healthy fat because the fat you eat is the fat you wear. No, I do balance macronutrients and I still eat the fat, I still get enough protein, I still eat plenty of carbohydrates. Why? Because I'm in a calorie deficit and I understand that's the key driver of fat loss, not your proportion of macronutrients. That really is a secondary issue. Principle number 3, this one brings me joy. The body language probably says it all. This is the stress relief. This is the removal of the decision fatigue. This is one of the critical pieces that has allowed me to lose weight and keep it off on this lifestyle for 10 years now. Core 5 to 6 meal rotation, not endless 45-minute recipes that you've peeled from Instagram because they're so beautiful and sexy, but they take 45 minutes to prepare. And they are delicious. Don't get me wrong, these things are delicious. But I will compromise a little bit of taste to make a meal repeatable, to make it systematized, to make it something that can naturally integrate into my lifestyle very easily. Because I understand these are the pieces of the puzzle that are critical for consistency and adherence. And the current rotation right now, then, if you're curious, the plant-based meals that I'm eating that I am loving at the moment, especially number 1, first and foremost, is the all-in-one yogurt bowl with our versatile toppings. That's been a home run this summer. Of course, you've already seen the macro plates and bowls that I love. Balanced, big, diverse bowls that just leave you feeling so full and satisfied, almost like it's cheating weight loss because you get to eat all of this delicious, colorful food. They're less simple, though, I will concede. Of course, the tofu scrambles and tofu stir fries, they're a really quick option. Throw it all in a pan, you're good to go. I'm still doing those quite often. Less so at the moment, actually, but still definitely deserves a shout out. You guys know I love the sandwiches. Bread, oh my goodness, yeah, but we use whole wheat, sourdough, and again, calorie deficit first. Rye bread as well, I meant to say. Calorie deficit is the first principle. It depends how much bread you have, what you put on, what the rest of your daily diet looks like. But yeah, of course it can be part of a weight loss friendly diet, absolutely. So we love the hummus and veggie sandwiches, avocado sandwiches, chickpea, tuna, salad sandwiches. What else? The cereal bowls, the oatmeal. I'm doing all of this stuff as always. That's the current rotation. Love it. It's repeatable, it's automatic, builds into my lifestyle. Principle, I think, number 4, I've been talking about this loads lately, satisfaction distribution. I personally don't like eating windows. I don't like weird schedules for food. Depends what you consider weird, doesn't it? But certainly intermittent fasting is a no-go for me because I'm a massive breakfast person. And again, what do I mean by satisfaction distribution? You know, the consistent spreading of one's fullness and satiety over the course of the day. This is something that, for compliance compliance and to prevent overeating, I think is actually really, really important to me. Even to this day, I'm in maintenance and I've got a bit more wiggle room versus being in a dedicated weight loss phase. But still now I'm very conscious that no, I want to spread my meals fairly evenly so I never get into these like hunger blind spots or sudden weak points where I'm about to crack. Insight number 5, 90% whole plant foods, 10% flexibility. This is the magic formula. This is the equation for me that has allowed me to comply with this way of eating gladly for a decade. I say gladly, comply is a dirty word, isn't it? But happily eat this way for a decade. I think I documented this in a video I think quite recently, but it was about the 3 or 4 month mark into plant-based eating where I said, I might have to drop some of my perfectionistic criteria here, my Puritan standards. I don't think I'm going to be able to do the exact whole foods plant-based textbook checklist, jab, bang, 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 every single day, because what about meals out? What about oil? I don't use oil at home to be clear, but when you're eating out more specifically, I mean. And that was in a period of my life I didn't eat out for, there was a period, it was a little bit later actually, where I didn't eat out for 5 months. 5 months. And I was really motivated at the time. The results were really good at the time. It worked. But that was never built to last. And that was at a time in my life where I could control outside factors more so and limit social commitments. That's not the case for me now, and I also don't want to do that now. We talked about deal breakers and non-negotiables earlier on, and building a plan that you can actually enjoy, therefore will be sustainable. It's not always about harder, more punishing, but building something you can actually happily stick to. And so for me, yeah, maybe every now and again having a G&T when I'm on a date with a nice young lady, having a meal out, knowing I'm going to make a decent choice. I'm not going to binge or blow out or cheating on my diet. I'm not talking about those things necessarily, but going and enjoying that little bit of something every now and again. All right, maybe there's a bit of oil on the lovely superfood salad I get from a healthy vegan veggie place here, right, in my city. I'm just making those concessions, but in doing so, building a diet that I actually gladly want to stick to every single day. And I've talked about the breads and the pasta, and did I mention cereal earlier on, like bran flakes and the shredded wheat-esque type products as well. Right, these are all processed foods. There's some teachers in my community that will look at this, and they do look at this and they go, I'm not sure, Rye, like, do you really want to be eating this? Do you really want to then be promoting it online? It's up to you what you eat. But that's always been my stance. But for me personally, a processed food isn't automatically bad because it's processed. It can still have really high nutrient content. That's one nuance. But the other nuance is, look, if these little things keep me eating an otherwise very healthy diet because it feels really exciting and enjoyable and fun to me, and I can still bend the rules and go to a wedding and go out to eat with friends on occasion, still do a bit of traveling, and I'm not fearful about all of these things, and that keeps me in the all or nothing on-off diet paradigm. Actually, the composition of my diet is much healthier with that little 10% concession than when I'm trying to set myself up to do something perfect and then I rebel against that and eat goodness knows what. Insight number 6, I don't actually use calorie counting apps, but I am calorie aware. This is a really important distinction. Like, if you're not using calorie counting apps, that doesn't mean the solution is complete ignorance about how many calories you might be consuming and what it will take to actually lose weight. That's not my proposal here today. This isn't some, you can eat as many calories as you want, you never have to think about calories. Wow, that sounds great, Ryan. Sign me up to your program, mate. No, let's be realistic about this. But for me, it was like finding some middle ground. It's like, all right, I respect the law of calories. I understand that first principle that it's calorie deficit first. That's what I need to focus on. That's the thing that's going to drive results on the scale every week. But simultaneously, I don't want to track every single gram of food I eat. Like, what do we do? What's the fix? Oh, developing a decent level of calorie consciousness to where, and this is thanks, I can lean on my experience in my calorie counting days, to where I can look at a bowl of rice and go, 240 calories. And within, it's not perfect. There's margin for error here, obviously, with guesswork, but I'm within about 10% every time. And so you get very, very good at that. And of course, I still use things like measuring cups. I still, when I'm pouring out my plant milk, know, okay, that's roughly about 200 milliliters. So I am still understanding, cognizant, let's say, of roughly how many calories are in each meal I eat. And throughout the day, I am thinking about calories. So again, I want to be clear, I don't use calorie counting apps. I'm not like weighing, and I do measure, but I'm not weighing everything out on a digital scale and then writing it in the app and going, oh my goodness, I've got 50 calories left. I don't like this. I don't like the neuroses that it was driving in me back in the day. But I am still calorie conscious. I still care. I still think about my calories. If I decide, again, to use that little bit of flexibility and do something really naughty, like I have an almond croissant. So middle class, almond croissant. I account for 450, maybe 500 calories very conservatively for that almond croissant. And I build that into my daily diet. I said, well, I've used 400 calories there, and what's going to give? Because I don't want to go into a calorie surplus today. So what's going to give? And you don't need to do that every day when you're in maintenance necessarily. Sometimes you can eat a little bit more and it will be fine. I don't want to promote absurd levels of neuroticism with this stuff. But if you're in a weight loss phase, that's what I talked about earlier, that flexibility piece. Bend the rules without breaking them. Account for your deviations. Don't let them be additions. That would be another whole segment in itself. That's another free little tip there. I've lost track slightly, but calorie awareness is really important, but I don't literally track everything I do. And for my vegan, slim and sustain clients, if you're interested, I handle all the numbers anyway, so they don't even need to track their calories. My clients don't even track their calories. But again, calories still matter to my clients and they're the biggest driver of my client success. It's just they don't have to think about it because I've handled it all for them. And lastly, but most certainly not least, insight number 7, everything else has been nutrition related. So this one absolutely deserves a mention. And the fact everything else has been nutrition related is generally, I think, a decent indication of my feeling that nutrition really does do the heavy lifting. But this has still been a contributor, no doubt, to my success over these years. Understanding that exercise needs to work with my appetite and not against it. I talked about this on Instagram very recently. Even to this day, when I do very, very high intensity exercise, my appetite goes through the roof. I actually find it harder to control myself with food. And of course, the more exercise you do, the more you can safely eat and it won't tip you into a calorie surplus. So again, you don't want too much fear and scarcity around eating a bit more if you're moving a bit more. So I'm conscious of my words on that. But also, same time for me, like, I was overeating, I was overcompensating. So if I estimated that I burnt, you don't get to eat all the food you burn back anyway, that's a whole different video because of the metabolic adjustment. But if I was burning 400 calories estimated in 1 hour of relatively intense tennis playing, let's say, I would then go and eat 600 calories worth of food. Obviously, it wasn't that precise, but that's literally how I was always eating a little bit more. When I was training all the martial arts stuff, those really intense Muay Thai training sessions with a little bit of sparring at the end, all the cardio, all the drilling, sometimes I'd do the double back-to-back 2 hours. You're burning probably 1,000 calories in those 2 sessions. I'd come back and eat 2,000 calories at night, on top of the rest of my daily diet, because it just made you so ravenous, and you'd wake up at 3 a.m., or I'd wake up at 3 a.m., still hungry, and go and snack on something else. Even if it was a couple of pieces of fruit, fine, pretty harmless you would think, but again, you're adding hundreds and hundreds of, or maybe thousands of calories to your diet, versus I notice with me personally, when I just do my strength training 3 to 4 times a week, and I do push myself. I do my strength training 3 to 4 times per week. I do my 7, 8, 9, 10,000 steps here. It's very natural for me in my lifestyle in the city. And I don't actually force myself. I do it if I want to, but I don't force myself to do any cardio. I'm not training the martial arts right now. I'm having a bit of a hiatus from tennis over these recent months. And I still play it from time to time, but it's kind of on my schedule and I don't feel I need to do these things for results. The great irony is, I chisel up, I'm sounding braggadocious here, my abs get even more chiseled in the periods where I don't even work out. Like, it's so ironic. Eat less and move more. Not necessarily, because maybe moving more stops you from eating less. And that is definitely a massive realization I've had. Actually, more recently, I would say, but it's really contributed to my results nicely. So yeah, this is where I like the whole slow go methodology, walking, yoga, Pilates, these more gentle movements. This is what I advise, and the exercise plans that I build for my clients. We do some light strength training as well, because we want to cover all bases. And it's not to say you shouldn't work up to some more intense cardio. I think those things are really, really good for your cardiovascular health and a litany of other things fitness related. But you shouldn't push it too much, has always been, or is now really my strongest view, or I personally don't like to push it too much because I know what happens to my appetite. And with the exercise rightly covered, that's a wrap. These were my 7 big pillars, the plant-based philosophy that has changed my life. So grateful to this way of eating, and so grateful to the learnings and experiences that I've drawn lessons from and made tweaks to the greater plant-based diet to make it realistic and sustainable for me personally. And that's the key, adapting it to you personally so you know you can stick to it for years and years. This is what not only helped me lose 10 plus kilos, but more importantly, I've actually maintained it, right? Stayed leaner, getting a little bit fitter and stronger each year, frankly, not linearly, but progressively, and without all the extremes, without all the unsustainable dieting BS that I used to believe I really had to do in the past. And it's the exact method now that I've used to help over 600 clients do exactly the same, right? Without giving up the breads or the avocados, cutting out the healthy fats, cutting out carbs, totally giving up on meals out. And I think the one big takeaway here is the easiest method, to repeat what I sort of said earlier, maybe in different words, the easiest method isn't necessarily the flashiest or the fastest one. It's the one you can actually keep doing. And that's why Slim and Sustain works. And that's why I think, again, blowing my own trumpet, but why my program has been so popular over the last 4 to 5 years. So if you're ready to stop the crash diets and actually find something realistic and sustainable for life, I break all of this method in more detail down in my free new 45-minute presentation on my website. You'll see the exact Slim and Sustain framework in that link down below. So go and click that, watch the presentation there. It's also where you'll find the application page to submit your info to learn more about working with me one-on-one. If you want a deeper look as well, in the description box, you can also download my free insider document, again, where I break down my whole Slim and Sustain method in more detail. The links to all of this stuff will be down below. See you in the next one.